whatever you want to call it tonight. All right, guys, weekend weight gain is what we're talking about today. So hopefully you guys can see this okay. Boom. All right. So we all love the weekends. I love the weekends. The weekends are great, right? Like you work your ass off all week and you just want to be able to relax and not think about things. For some of us, maybe that means you don't want to cook, you don't want to think about food, you don't want to think about anything. Maybe you want to have a couple of beers. It's also when people want to go out to eat more, you get to hang out with your friends and your family. It is a really important part of our life. The weekends are not ever going to go away. It happens every single sixth day of the week, or for some people the fifth day of the week, depending on when your weekend starts. So it is really important that you understand that whatever dietary protocol you guys are going through, that you are actually making sure that you are including this as part of the plan. And it is why I often will recommend people doing things in a practice setting with a coach to see how I like to see how you guys react or how you guys act in those social situations, or when you have a little bit more flexibility, because it's important for me to know that you guys are actually going to be able to maintain those results. And if you aren't one of my clients, this goes for you as well. The way you handle the weekends is going to be very vindicative of how well you're going to be able to handle long-term success. This is 100% why I don't believe in a lot of the 30-day quick fixes or the 30-day challenges, because they can be 7 days a week for 30 days, but then from there, the weekends come back in and nobody's ever really navigated how to teach you that stuff. So how do we navigate this? And I'm going to kind of hopefully stay organized, but you guys know that when I get on a tangent, sometimes it goes off on a tangent. So hopefully I'll be able to stay pretty much on track. So I put this quote here. You've all heard like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? What happens on the weekend stays on the weekend, right? We all think that Saturday and Sunday we'll get right back on track on Monday. This is the common theme, right? You do really well Monday through Friday. Saturday morning comes, you start off strong, and then all of a sudden, before you know, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna start again on Monday. And that's the common theme. Okay. That is wrong. Okay. Because the weekend is part of the plan. Your body does not know the difference between Saturday and Monday. Your mind does, your brain does, because you're not mentally as stimulated as you are on Monday, on Saturday. We know that, but that is the wrong mentality. And there's a lot of reasons why that is the wrong mentality. But I'm going to break down a couple of things that matter. People, I don't think this is real. I don't think people really don't think that calories count on the weekend. I do think that people do understand that calories count no matter what day of week it is. I do know that, but I think that we can often be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Just unaware or maybe like oblivious to the damage that the weekends might be doing to us because of our mindset around them and the way that we feel about ourselves and the way that we treat ourselves or whatever that might look like. So the truth is that calories do count on the weekends. And sometimes it's two things I want you to understand. That one, you're likely not doing as much sabotage as you think. And two, you might be doing more sabotage than you think, which are two very different ends of the spectrum, but both will play a factor into how you perceive that. So that person that thinks that they're doing so much sabotage often will have this constant, like, I just can't get my shit together feeling, and they keep feeling bad about themselves. Or the person that doesn't realize how much damage that they're doing, they keep saying, asking themselves, why am I not losing any weight? I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'm being so good, and I don't know why the scale's not moving. Okay, so calories count 7 days a week. Your body doesn't know the difference. So I put in here our stored energy, aka our body fat, because that's all body fat really is stored energy sources, is an accumulation of calories consumed over the course of days, weeks, and even months. So one weekend, you can't gain 10 pounds of fat in a weekend. You might see a weight fluctuation, which we're going to talk about, but you have to have at least a 3,500 calorie surplus in order to gain 1 pound of fat. So that means you need 3,500 calories more than your body needs to actually gain a pound of fat or even to lose a pound of fat. So the right mentality is to understand if we learn how to manage our calorie budget in the way that fits our lifestyle, we can actually maintain a calorie deficit and still enjoy the weekends. Because like I said, accumulation of body fat or decrease in body fat is going to be about the calories consumed over a period of time, not just a day or even a week. Okay, so we all know that it takes a lot longer. And Amber, you were just on my Zoom, and Kathy was on before. But you're a perfect example that you were super successful watching that gradual steady loss. Okay, so it happens over time. I want you guys to almost think of your calorie budget almost like a credit card. And I'm trying to think about the best way to think how to word this, but pretend you've like maxed out your credit card and you decide to start paying it off. All right. So that's you right now. You're maxed out, like you're at your wits end, like you can't gain any more weight. Your clothes are fitting uncomfortably. You're just like ready. You're at the top, you're at the end of the spectrum. Okay. That's the same thing as your credit card being maxed out. Now, let's just say you start making payments on that credit card. Okay. Same thing with your calories. Let's just say you start making little decrease in your calories. You start to get a little bit of a drop. But every time you spend something, whether it be you're spending something and you're putting some more money on that credit card, or you're spending something on the weekend, you're now changing that. And now you're going back into where you were before, back into that red zone. So it's important to understand that you want to create a little bit of wiggle room so that you have a little bit more flexibility. And we're going to talk more about all that later on, but just kind of know that I want you guys to think about your calorie budget with your weight loss goals in mind, almost like a credit card budget. All right. Here's where I want to start talking about the weekends, because this is a big thing. Is we've all done it where we wake up on Monday morning, we freak out because the scale's up like 3 pounds, or we come back after vacation and we're up 6 pounds, and we're like, what the hell? Did I really gain 6 pounds from being on vacation? And then you start to get defeated. So fat loss versus weight loss, there are two very different things. As I already said, to lose a pound of fat, we've got to have that 3,500 calorie deficit. However, you will likely often see weight loss without seeing fat loss. And this is why you guys know if you're one of my clients, I'm really big about you guys being on track with your protein numbers. We want to make sure that we're not losing lean muscle tissue, especially if you're not a very active weightlifter. So, how do we lose body fat? We have to create a sustainable calorie deficit that will allow your body to lose body fat. So, going back to that credit card analogy, okay, if you're trying to pay off your credit card, but you have a set income, you don't want to be putting all of your budget into that credit card and not have enough money for the other things, right? It's really important. The same thing here. We don't want to be cutting calories so much that we don't have the budget or the calorie energy needed for getting through our day to day life. Our body will send us signals, which is typically when you'll see people with that restriction binge cycle. So it ends up being a little bit more of that. We don't want that at all. So what else causes the weight loss? Guys, I know you know how I feel when you tell me that, well, so-and-so started this diet and they've already lost 10 pounds and it's only been 10 days. Yeah, that's great. They did not lose 10 pounds of fat. So go ahead and tell them to shove it, okay? Because you know the truth behind fat loss. I know I'm getting a little bit R-rated here, but it's just I get really passionate about this stuff because I care about you guys. And I hate that that is what's going through people's minds on a regular basis because they're fed it on social media. Okay, so what else causes weight loss? Hydration factors. So whether you are overhydrated or underhydrated, guys, water manipulation is a way to get weightlifters to cut weight. I've done it for weightlifters before without cutting their calories. To keep their energy levels up, I can manipulate water intake and get them to gain and lose weight in like 3 days. Okay, they didn't lose body fat, they lost water weight. Okay, food volume, how much food you have in your belly. Like people that are starting a diet, they start eating a lot higher quality foods. They're like, Cheryl, why am I gaining weight? You're not gaining weight. You likely were under eating before, and now we're feeding you more food. You've got more food in your belly to digest. Your body's got to work harder for that, which we will talk about why that is actually a good thing for your results. Waste, I put in there, but I spelt it wrong. All right. So waste meaning like waste, like WASTE. So like obviously we all have to poop, right? So sometimes we might see that our digestion's a little bit sluggish. That stuff is sitting in your belly or in your intestines or wherever it's sitting. So depleted glycogen stores. This is a big one for those of you guys that are like, I feel so bloated when I eat carbs, and then I feel so much lighter when I don't eat carbs. Well, yeah, because you've now training your body, not you're basically taking out the enzymes in your belly that are helping you digest those carbs. And then when you add them back in, you're getting bloated. When you deplete yourself, you're depleting your body of all your glycogen stores. So the analogy I'll give here is pretend that your muscle is a sponge. And when you cut out all the carbs, you're essentially drying out the sponge. And then when you feed the carbs, you're swelling the sponge. So you're giving your body that energy. That's not body fat. but we're all so stuck on this freaking scale that we freak out about it. Other things I didn't mention here is like sodium intake. Okay, that can also play a factor in electrolyte balance. Why do I gain on the weekends? Why do I gain weight on the weekend? This is a big one. Okay, there's a few different factors that are going to go into play, and a couple of them I have here, but a couple that I didn't mention. One of them is on the weekends, people typically are a little bit less active. So you might not sweat as much if you're not working out as much. If you are in the field, if you're like outside a lot, you might actually see that you're not sweating as much. That's going to cause some changes. Like I said, activity is going to be different, but also your foods might look different. If you're eating out more, your sodium intake is going to be higher. Other things are going to factor in. Um, Different foods in general can cause you that if you're eating different things. So how do we gain body fat? It's almost the exact opposite of it is the exact opposite of this. So when we're talking about weight gain on the weekends, we are not talking about body fat gains. Now, over time, accumulation, if you are constantly putting yourself in a calorie surplus every single weekend, you are going to gain weight. Guys, I was there, okay? I've talked about this before in one of my Zooms. I was under eating and then I was overeating. And I honestly thought, just like everybody else, that I was going to be able to compensate for it during the week. And it was not happening. I slowly watched my weight creep up. And it's not fun because you want to be, honestly, you avoid the scale because you're like, I don't want to see the damage. But 5 or 6 days later, you step on it, you're like, oh, okay. And then it's back to the weekend again. So the only way you gain weight is to have that calorie surplus. And you guys have to realize you have to eat a ton of calories. This is also important for those of you guys that are gaining weight, that are not on a plan, and you are gaining weight. Okay. That means that your habits are way out of line, and you honestly do need to spend some time dialing things in. If you are gaining weight, it means you're eating a considerable amount more food than you need. So you're either not moving enough or you need to start working on that. What else causes weight gain? As I already kind of mentioned, sodium, hormone changes. This is a big one, you guys. Hormone factors are going to affect things. And I'm not just talking sex hormones, which people are mostly familiar with, testosterone and estrogen. There are other hormones in our body that are also going to cause some weight fluctuations, aldosterone, progesterone, all these different things that affect our adrenals. So that's why cortisol is such an important hormone to regulate, because it can cause a lot of fluctuations in our inflammation factors and our inflammation markers and cause weight gain. Not long term, but just that weight gain on the scale, not body fat gain over time. Yes, body fat gain, but in that acute response is just weight gain. Glycogen stores, like I already mentioned, in food volume. And like I said, if any of this is bringing up questions, please just put them in the show notes in the comments, because I'm going to go back to it. This is the big one. I ate clean all week and the scale still isn't moving. Okay. This will happen to me on a number of occasions when I'll see that a person did not track food on the weekends. They were on track all week and they want to know why the scale hasn't moved. And I'm going to go back to this one right here where I talked about weight gain. It's going to take time for whatever you did on the weekend to come back down. So if you ate out on the weekends, you had higher sodium foods, you had higher carb foods, your body's probably not going to get back to baseline until Wednesday or Thursday. And then from there, if you're going back into another weekend, you're going to do it all over again. We're never going to get anywhere. We're going to constantly go on this hamster wheel over and over again. So your eating clean all week is not doing enough if you're really blowing it on the weekends. So it's really important for you guys to understand that the weekends matter. And don't worry, I don't want you guys to think that I mean you have to be super strict on the weekends. I'm going to go into some things that are going to hopefully help you guys learn how to navigate your weekends in a better way. And that's where I'm going to kind of open it up to some open forum stuff. I found this picture and I was like, oh, I got to use this, because this is the picture I have in my head when I get a text message from a client when she's like, oh my God, the scale is up. This is totally what I think about. Okay. Brenda's goal, meet Brenda. Her goal is to lose 20 pounds. And Monday through Friday, she is so dialed in. And maybe it's not just Monday through Friday. Maybe she just started and she feels like she is like a superstar. She is crushing it in week 1. And then all of a sudden, Saturday and Sunday comes and she falls off and she doesn't stay consistent. She steps on the scale and she's like, what the hell? I don't understand what I am doing wrong. Like, why am I not seeing any weight loss? She's freaking out. Okay, Brenda's plan. I'm going to go into Brenda's plan had she reached out to me for coaching. All right. I'm going to take a look at Brenda's metabolic assessment form that I have you guys fill out, which if you do want a metabolic assessment and you are not a client of mine, comment now and I'll make sure I get in touch with you for that. But let's just say Brenda's caloric needs are around 2,200 calories a day, which would equate to about 15,000 calories per week. Because as I said, guys, body fat does not change every day. We're looking for minimal changes daily, and then we're looking at that average per week. That's why I have you guys that are my clients weigh yourselves so frequently, because I know that one data point is not enough. Okay. That is her weight maintenance. So if I assess Brenda and she's in a good metabolic place, I know that she's been eating enough calories, she's not been chronically dieting, I'm going to start her off on a calorie deficit. And this is actually a little bit more of an aggressive calorie deficit, a little bit, but I'm going to trust that, you know what, this is probably where she's going to start. And I'm going to listen to biofeedback. All right. This is me being a little bit more aggressive because I'll be honest, most women, when they start with me, they want to get aggressive. And I know that I'm checking in weekly, so I'm going to be checking in biofeedback, and not just women, guys as well. I shouldn't put you guys, one or the other. So in order for Brenda to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, I've got to create about 11,000 calories. I've got to take down about 4,000 calories. Some of it's going to be she might start working out more, might start moving more, but mostly it's going to be from her food intake, because I'm not going to try and add too much stress to her body outside of her dietary stressors. So that would what she would need to do that. Now, let's just go into the truth. Okay. Let's just say that Brenda stuck to the plan for 5 days. But on the weekend, she had brunch at First Watch on Saturday. She had a couple of drinks with friends, and maybe she had popcorn at a movie. And then Sunday, maybe she had a barbecue to go to. She was snacking on some appetizers and yada, yada, yada. I know this looks like unrealistic, guys, but an extra 500 calories a day to 1,000 calories a day when you're eating out is not unheard of, because there's a lot of things that have calories in them that you don't feel. You don't see the volume on your plate. And it usually comes from fat sources and mixers and drinks alone, alcohol alone. So that is usually what's happening. Those little BLTs that she's not thinking about, grabbing a bite here and there, the half of a donut she might have had, the cookies, whatever. They seem like they're little bits and pieces, but they all add up over time. Not to mention that she might actually be a little bit less active on the weekend. So that's also going to throw things up. So it's now slowed down her progress. Not to mention, if I go back to the other reasons why somebody would be gaining weight, if she did eat out, we're probably not even going to see that half a pound loss, because we're going to have those other weight factors to factor in as well. So we've now slowed down her progress, along with having a little bit of what I like to call a masking agent of whatever sodium she took in, whatever carbohydrates she took in, and all that kinds of stuff, whatever processed food. But Brenda just doesn't get it, okay? Because she's been trained like this for so long. She's been doing this for so long. It's really hard for her to come to terms with the fact that what has to change is accountability and awareness on the weekends. And that can be a hard change to make. It is very difficult it's easy to track food and be on par when you're like measuring everything in your kitchen and you have your meal plan and everything is routine. But when the weekend comes, structure is kind of loose and you don't have all that stuff. You have more flexibility, and it can be a lot harder. But if we learn to hold ourselves accountable on the weekends as part of the plan to be a little bit different, a little bit more varied, a little bit more flexible, we can actually learn how to still maintain and lose weight without feeling like we are on a diet or that we're super structured and like we can't live our life. But it does take work and effort, but it is worth it if that is the lifestyle that you want to live. Brenda wakes up every Monday super frustrated. She feels like she can't enjoy anything on the weekend without weight gain. This is common. This is why people give up, which is the second thing on here. She feels like no matter what she does, she just can't seem to make any progress. She really just does not understand fat loss. And most people don't. They don't understand it at all. All they know is if they move more and they eat less, they're going to lose weight. That's really the only thing that they know. They don't understand all the other intricacies of it. And that's where coaches come in to kind of help you guys out. All right, let's stop talking about Brenda. Another funny picture. And this is not Brenda. I have no idea who this is. This is somebody that I found on my Canva. So whoever you are, you're Brenda today. This isn't about Brenda. This is about you guys out there that are watching this that are like, hey, I'm like super frustrated that no matter what I do, I can't get my shit together on the weekends. And I feel like everything that I try is just not sustainable because my life does not allow me to be in my kitchen every single day. And I just don't know how to do this. And I want to be able to help you guys out with that stuff. And this isn't going to be all slideshow, but I do want to kind of go through the slideshow because I do have some specifics. And you guys know I'll go off on tangents like I am right now. This is about getting the results you want without ever feeling deprivation. That's hands down what this is. Because I don't want my clients to feel deprived. Do my clients need to be disciplined? Do you guys need to be disciplined to see results? Absolutely. Nobody is going to get anywhere in life without discipline. And I've said this to somebody earlier this week. We need rules. We need structure. If we didn't have rules and structure, could you imagine how chaotic our life would be? If you didn't have to, I don't know, if it wasn't illegal to rob a bank, what would be happening? If it wasn't illegal to go into a store when it was closed, what would be happening? If there wasn't rules and regulations on which side of the road to drive on, how crazy would traffic be? So it's important to understand that we need discipline and structure in order to be organized and to be successful and to be able to have a level of organization that creates freedom for our life, right? So knowing that we can drive on the right and the left allows us to get, or drive one way on the right and one way on the left, allows us to get to from point A to point B without worrying about getting into a car accident and without worrying about people being in our way. So we have a clear cut path to that, right? And it's the same thing with your nutrition. Now, here's where I want to get into some specifics to kind of help you guys out. And this is going to really, and I really want you guys to think about 1, 2, and 3 and where you are on the spectrum, because this is going to help me help you a lot more. And if you do want more help with this, please shoot me a message so that I know I can kind of help you guys out personally. Um, Person number 1, it's a lifestyle. Okay. And I'm going to call this myself. I don't feel deprived choosing a vegetable and a protein at a dinner and choosing a Tito's and seltzer for a drink and being good with that. I don't feel deprived when I don't have a mozzarella stick that's sitting in front of me. That does not feel like restriction to me at all. It doesn't even phase me. Whereas somebody else across the table could be like, oh my God, I can't believe that you don't even want any of this food. It's so good. It doesn't even bother me because my life is just not, it just doesn't, it's not something that I value. I am totally fine going out and having fun with my friends and whatever, and choosing a steak and some broccoli and some vodka seltzer, or even skipping the drink and choosing to hit the rest of my calories when I get home with my favorite snack at night, which is cereal and ice cream, which I know Kelly Sullivan, if you're watching this, I just told her about this. That's my like vice every night. But I'm fine with that because that's who I am. I have no problem staying committed to my structure because that's like how I like to live. Person number 2 is all in or all out. And I'm going to call this kind of Brenda. She gets super motivated when she goes to put on her pants and they don't fit and she's ready to diet. And then a couple of days later, the bloat goes away and she forgets how shitty she felt on Monday. So she's okay with going all out again. Temporarily, they can stay super strict, but it catches up and they kind of feel like they're very restricted all the time and they just feel like they can't do it. Person number 3 is where most of my successful clients lie. They understand that a weekend away, a vacation, isn't going to be detrimental to their progress as long as they stay dialed in most of the time. But those weekend vacations and times away don't happen so frequently that they become the norm. They are consistently on track with those little breaks built in. So I am so bad at spelling today. I wrote structure meets as in meat. That was not meant to be a pun. Okay, structure meets flexibility. So they're disciplined enough to know that their lifestyle allows for them to be flexible. They can look at the menu ahead of time, plan things in, and be disciplined with that because they have a goal in mind. And that goal matters so much more to them than anything else. They are okay with being socially there and enjoying some of the experience and knowing that, but they're committed to the long haul. The Fit Life client, which is going to be client number 1, and I didn't really know how to name these people, they live the life. They don't need to worry about the weekends because their lifestyle is designed around their goals. They just don't really care. So like me, I have big goals. Like it doesn't, like I don't like the way it feels to wake up really really bloated and uncomfortable and feeling bad about myself. That doesn't resonate with me. The pain of that is not worth the pain of missing the food. It just doesn't do it for me. Some people that's not the case. I have no problem saying no. It does not feel uncomfortable to me to turn down something that was offered to me. I don't feel guilty if somebody makes me feel guilty about not eating something. And that might sound harsh. And I actually had a client once said, "Oh, I could not be that person. I'm Italian." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Italian." And I will be honest, if I say no and that person doesn't respect that, then that's shame on them, because that I would never do that to somebody. Me feeling guilty for telling somebody no is the same thing as me telling somebody else, "You shouldn't eat that." And I'm never going to do that to somebody. I'm never going to judge somebody for their food choices. Even as a nutrition coach, I know you guys might think that we're judgmental. I am not at all. If I'm at a dinner table with one of my clients and they're choosing to eat chicken fingers and french fries, I don't care. That is their choice. And we may talk about that on a call, and we may talk about that and how it lines up with their goals, but I don't judge them. I don't worry. If that was their meal of choice, and that's their meal of choice, go for it. But I don't push my life on them. I don't expect them to push their life on me. I have no problem saying no. This is the big one. The emotional client, always reactive to emotions. And it's often why there's also emotional eating as part of the issue with why they can't stay compliant. They rely on motivation. They rely on that day that the pants don't fit. They rely on the day that they wake up and they look in the mirror and they don't like the way that they look. And that's when they feel like doing the work. They feel like doing the work when it's convenient because they don't have a choice, because they're so uncomfortable with themselves that right then and there, they're going to do the work. But the second they get the glimmer of hope and they feel comfortable again, they're complacent and they go back to what they knew. They also see structure as restriction. They're the ones that are like, "I'm not tracking my food. That's too strict." What is so strict about keeping a food journal? Nowhere in keeping a food journal did it say you cannot eat this or you cannot eat that. It just says you're saying, "I'm eating this." You're writing down what you ate. You're keeping yourself accountable to what you ate. So that, guess what? When you're not losing weight, you have the reason why you're not losing weight. It's not because of your hormones or your metabolism or this and that. You're actually seeing, hey, all right, now I'm seeing all my habits. And guess what? That is not comfortable. It's not the restriction that people are afraid of in this club. It's usually the fear of seeing that they are the reason why. It's the guilt that they are to blame. And I've been there. I understand that. I didn't want to see it. I can go back to my fitness pal and there would be 3 days logged. And then the weekend was like a protein bar. And I know I had more than a protein bar on that day. Okay. Structure is not restriction. Structure can be freedom if you let it. And that's going to be my next client, the flexible client. And there are times where this is me, okay? Structure is freedom. They look ahead at their week. They're like, "I've got dinner with the husband on Friday night for date night, and I've got the kids' birthday party on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, but it's not really my kid, so I can go and be social. I don't have to eat the birthday cake." You know, it's looking ahead at your week and knowing what, maybe you have a work event that's coming up that you have to be social with, and you have to have maybe a drink or two, or you want to have a drink or two. You want to be able to include those things in. You understand that, and you start to work backwards. Rather than waiting until everything is spent on that credit card, you're looking at that credit card limit, and you're making exchanges with things, and you're learning how to navigate that. Progress is also gradual. The more flexible the client, the more gradual the progress is. If you need more room for flexibility, you have to understand that your results are going to also be in line with that. They aren't looking for the end though, because they are actually, like, I'll ask my clients that are like, it's not happening fast enough, but they're very flexible. They're tracking, they're doing good, but they're not very strict. They're not like super rigid. They're not the fit life client. They're definitely flexible. And I'm going to ask them, like, how restricted are you in your life? Can you still enjoy things? Do you feel like you're living in a food prison? And if all those are no, and you're feeling good and energetic, then what is the rush? What is the rush to get to point B? Because if you feel pretty good and progress is happening, as long as you're not becoming this person, you're good. You're golden. If you want to go it a little bit faster, maybe you kind of take a little tip from the fit life and learn how to be a little bit less flexible, but still practice flexibility. Most people need to be flexible. You need to be flexible, but you also need to be compassionate with yourself. You don't need to beat yourself up for being flexible. You don't need to look at your weight on Monday morning like you're a failure because you decided to go out for dinner with your kids on a Saturday night. You decided that pizza night was more important that weekend than your diet. Okay? That's not the end of the road as long as you're learning how to navigate and learning what percentage of flexibility you need and also what level of structure you need to see the results that you want. If you want to be able to enjoy your weekends, you want to see results, and you want to be able to feel good, you need some structure, you need some flexibility. Discipline will help you create control. I promise. You can get control of your food choices and your habits if you learn to be more disciplined. So this is where I wanted to really get into some of the stuff that I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. And this is more of the geeky stuff that I think that will help you guys out that are trying to navigate weekend stuff. And I'm going to, after I finish this up, I'm going to go over to my comments. And the first one I have on there, it says eat more food. Okay. If you are on a lower number of calories because of your metabolic status and you are trying to be in a cut, and that does mean that you have a lower number of calories, this is where relying on very dense calories is working against you. So if you have 105 carbs to eat a day and you're eating a protein bar, let's just call a little bit of granola and maybe some rice as your carbs, and you're not getting in any volume foods, no vegetables, no fruits, no fiber, your thermic effective feeding is going to be very low. You're not burning a lot of calories to break it down. If you learn to eat more food, you are going to give your body more to work with. On the other side of that, if you are on a lower functioning metabolic rate, so you are having to really drop calories, if you work on metabolic priming, meaning we're learning how to burn more calories at rest by AKA building muscle, eating more food volume, and maybe even increasing some activity if you don't have a very active life, now your calorie budget that you can maintain your weight at is so much higher. Your food volume is so much higher. So guess what? The weekends aren't as damaging. And this is where a lot of people, why can some people go out to eat and not gain a pound while others do? Even if it is just weight gain, masking from sodium and things like that, it's because they have a metabolic priming that is a lot healthier, or their metabolic is primed, I should say. That was like didn't make any sense, but they're just in a healthier place metabolically, and maybe their body can tolerate more food volume. So the calories and everything are kind of minimal. It's kind of like the cup is already stretched to its max. So if you fill it with something different, it doesn't really matter. Planning ahead. This is we're going to go into some of the stuff that's going to help you guys out in terms of strategy. Planning ahead is that flexible client, okay? They aren't winging it on a Saturday. Their day might be less structured. They might not have meal prep, but they're like, you know what? We're going to go to, I don't know, I'm just going to name a blanket Outback Steakhouse for dinner. I want to have a steak tonight. So you're going in MyFitnessPal or whatever app you use, and you're logging a steak and a sweet potato and some broccoli and some butter, and maybe you're logging, and then you're like backtracking from there. So maybe you are eating a little bit lower fat earlier in the day. Maybe you are eating more higher protein and veggies earlier in the day. Maybe you want to have ice cream that night. You're planning ahead for that flexibility. Maybe you want to have a couple of drinks. You're putting that stuff in first, and you're checking what's left over, making sure that the protein priority is going to be your protein, and just navigating the other numbers as you go. It's also okay to be slightly under those days so that you can honestly protect yourself a little bit. This is also where if you did this and you wake up on Monday morning and the weight's up, you didn't do anything wrong. That is weight gain, not fat gain. So don't stress about it. The other one I put on here, and this is going to be huge, guys. It's almost fall. I was at a coffee shop today working, and they were talking about how much they love the fall. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're talking about Christmas trees and when they like to put the Christmas stuff away. I'm like, oh my gosh, we are already going into the Christmas season. Yes, I haven't been to Walgreens, but I'm going to guarantee you that pretty soon we're going to see that there's going to be Halloween stuff up. But prioritize your parties. Like I said, if you have date night Friday night, that's your non-negotiable. That means that business lunch on Tuesday can be navigating something a little bit lighter so that you can plan for that meal. It means looking ahead, knowing that one meal does not mean the whole day is fucked. One day does not mean the whole weekend is screwed up. And 1 week does not mean the whole month is screwed up. Having a week vacation does not mean your whole month has to be off. And it's also about the expectations that you have. Guys, it is okay to track your food without the goal of weight loss. It is okay to track your food for the sake of like, let me see what I am eating right now. Because a lot of times you'd be surprised. Like, it's eye opening how off you guys are when you're not taking a look and paying attention to things. And as you get more dialed in, you'll realize that you are going to be closer to your goals. I think this might be actually my last slide. This is my last slide. And this is huge. I talk a lot and I be honest, consistency is the goal. Every habit that we are trying to change with you guys, every habit that I want you guys to start doing is something that I want you to do consistently. It's not going to always be perfect, but I want consistency because I know that if you're consistent 90% of the time, you're going to have really good freaking results. 95% of the time, awesome results. 70% of the time, still good results. Lower than that, not as good of results. The higher you are with consistency, the better your results are going to be. But sometimes we have to break consistency. And if you consistently keep tracking 3 to 4 days of the week and then falling off on the weekends or just minimally tracking or going back and trying to remember what you had, all of that stuff are bad habits that are working against you. And I'll be honest, you know that because you see the results of it. They likely aren't there. So if you want to get results, you have to sometimes break that consistency and do something that you've been doing inconsistently. So creating a consistent habit with something that you've been doing inconsistently. And it's usually tracking your food ahead of time, planning ahead for your day, saying no when your plan did not involve that plan. Okay, being accountable to yourself and knowing that that's where you're going to get the most results. And honestly, also, it's not jumping off the deep end if the scale goes up on a Monday. So that's the